I'm Brian Gorn. Brad Helmick is also here. Many of the attendees I see online, of course, we know very well. So thank you all for coming. We try to do these once a quarter and give everybody an update. This one's a little interesting because of the end of multi-user and perpetual. And we're going to go over that in some amount of detail. And I am going to click on this, I hope, and go to an agenda. So the first thing we're going to go over really quickly is what is a named user. Then we'll go over the multi-user and perpetual license, end of life, important dates, costs, trade-in options. We will touch on the new subscription premium offering that has just been announced. Then, of course, we always have to have promos because there are some. And we'll end up with some Q&A, and hopefully Brad and I can answer all of your questions. As we go through this, there's going to be a lot of little example costs and things I put together. Most of you will have your own situation that'll, well, it'll be your own situation with your own licenses and your own expiration dates. And we will be happy to go through each of those individually with you if you want to email or call us afterwards. My email is brian@Motion Media. Brad's is brad@Motion Media. You may also be a customer of Fernando's. His is Nando@Motion Media. I'll give you all that at the end. But let's get going through this. All right, so first of all, just to know what a named user is and what it isn't. A named user is what is called a single user license right now. Autodesk is retiring all of the plans based on serial numbers. So any floating network license, the multi-user license, any perpetual license, all of those use serial numbers to activate, and they're retiring them all. All of the new plans are based on people, their user emails, their unique login and password. It has some advantages. It's, named user has some advantages to a multi-user, to be honest. I am a fan of multi-user, but I do understand the benefits of named user. For example, you get a lot of product data reporting. You can get in to see how much you're using this product that you've purchased, or the admin can see how many users are using how many products, and it really gives them a lot more data to be able to make purchase decisions with what to renew or what not to renew if you're over, if you have too many licenses that aren't being used. Each person has their own license. There is no, no network license that everything is checked out. You can access this license anywhere, anytime, on a computer at home, at the office, on an airplane, wherever you want. You log in, you have your license. It works just like much of the other software you use on a daily basis. We use Gmail as a lot of our corporate email account, and I have to log in. I can log in anywhere. Every once in a while, it asks me to re-log in. It works the exact same way with Autodesk. The only difference is the software is installed locally, unlike Gmail or Salesforce or any of the typical SaaS type software plans. The nice thing is you can reassign these licenses. People don't realize this, but the admin on the portal, and you can have more than one admin, can assign and reassign any of the named user licenses to any other person anytime they want. It's as simple as going and taking it away from this user and adding it to this user. That's all there is to it, and they can do it as much as they want. So when you do assign this person a named user seat, it's not, forever. So if this person isn't with the company anymore, or somebody else needs to jump on it and the other person's not around, whatever you want, for whatever reason, you can go ahead and reassign it. Finally, you do get some relevant user experiences. Your dashboards and things can start to be customized, and the things Autodesk will look at the data and be able to kind of tweak your portal to your specific needs, I guess. It's ever evolving, and right now everybody's looks very much the same, but with Salesforce and some of these other software as a service type applications, you already start to see this, and this will be coming in the Autodesk portal as well, which is really nice, I think. All right, But now let's get to really what a lot of you are here to go over. First thing to know is some key dates. The end of life, multi-user, people who have Autodesk already probably got an email from Autodesk explaining these dates, but let's just go over them really quickly. Your last day to purchase any new floating seats. And I use multi-user, network, and floating interchangeably because they are essentially the same thing. Some people just use different terminology. The Autodesk terminology is multi-user, but you also know it as network or floating. You can purchase new floating seats up until August 6th of this year. They have limited to annual subscriptions only. You can't get 2 or 3 year term subscriptions anymore. But you can still add them if you would like to for 1 year. You could actually renew those seats that you buy for yet another year. So technically you have until August 6th, 2022 before you would have to, you would no longer have access to that multi-user seat. And then on perpetual seats, the last day to renew those is May 6th. In a lot of the emails you may have, it may say May 7th and August 7th. And to be honest, I wasn't quite sure if that's midnight of August 6th is when the timeout is or August 7th. So I just played it safe throughout this presentation and made it 1 day earlier than what you may have seen. And that's just to cover my own butt. The really important thing to know here is this renewal eligibility is based on your expiry date and not when you place the order. And this will come up a couple times in the presentation, but if your renewal date, let's say, is August 10th, 2021, and you want to renew, and you say, well, it's July, I want to renew it early, it won't really matter. It's based on your expiry date when you're eligible to renew that or not. Okay, and I use the example here of May 10th. You can't renew your perpetual in April to try to get an extra year out of it, unfortunately. This will be, if your expiry date is after May 6th, then this is your last year on maintenance. You will have some options to trade that in if you choose, and we're going to go over that, of course. The first thing we'll do is the network license trade-in options. And I'm going to use this example of August 7th of this year through August 7th of next year. And you've got 3 options. The first option, if your renewal date falls within that period, is you can trade them in for 2 of the named user subscriptions. Currently, the cost is about double of what a named user subscription is. The cost of a floating license is double. So they're going to give you 2 named users for each of the floating users. And the real reason behind why 2 is Autodesk did a bunch of surveys. They talked to a bunch of customers. At least this is what they told us. And 2 was kind of the average usage. 2 to 1 was the average usage of a network license. We have a customer I know that wasn't too happy about this. And I believe they were using about 8 people per license. So for them, of course, you know, this isn't that great a deal, and they're not very happy about this, and understandably so. But on the flip side, there are other people who barely use 1-to-1 floating license. They're using floating licenses for different reasons. And for them, they're almost doubling their license count for the same amount of money. But for whatever, all of those reasons together, 2 was the magic number, and that's how much they're going to offer if you would like to trade in your subscription. Now, the one nice thing about this is that each of those licenses you trade in are 50% of the price. You certainly aren't required to get 2 for 1. If you decide you only want 1 of 2, then your cost will be half. So for example, the current cost of a perpetual network license to renew for somebody on maintenance perpetual, maintenance is associated with perpetual, subscription is a term-based license, is $865. So each of the 2 named user seats are going to cost you $432. If you have a regular annual subscription and your cost is $2,700 to renew normally for that floating license, you're going to be at $1,352. And then we have the M2S customers who, excuse me, who have already converted their perpetual into subscription at the promotional rates that were locked, and they got some additional discounts involved with that. So depending on what year they did that, It could be either $362 or $432, just depending on where you're at in that promotional time frame that you did the switch in. But so if you have 10 seats, you're basically getting 20 at half price each. So your cost out the door is the same if you decide to stay with the same amount of seats. But a lot of our users, of course, are looking at how many of these seats are they using. If they have 10 network seats and they're really only need 15 single users, then for them they're going to save a little money and maybe only do 15 of the trade-ins. Sorry, that didn't really come out right, but I think you got the idea. So the second option is you can go ahead and renew it as is, and that has some ramifications to it. You can stay with your multi-user. The benefit, of course, is you stay on your network. You don't have to do anything different in your daily administrative task on dealing with these licenses. They stay the same. But know that your renewal price will be 20% higher if you're perpetual network as of August 7th, if you want to stay the same. The subscription renewal pricing is exactly the same. I think I mentioned it was $2,700. Now this is, I'm basing all of this on Maya because it's one of our most popular software packages, Maya and 3ds Max. If you have AEC collection, product design collection, all of these things, the pricing will be different, but it will still go up 20% from whatever your renewal price was. You forego the option of getting that 2-for-1. So it's a one-time offer only. If your renewal date is between August 7th of 2021, then you get 2-for-1. If you decide to stay as is, you can trade it in next year, but it's only going to be 1-to-1. I don't know what the pricing of that is going to be, if it's still going to be at 50% or not, or if it'll be just a straight 1-to-1, including costs. They haven't announced that one way or another, but my guess is it will probably be at 50%, but I don't really know this for sure. So here's some example pricing. That 865 that we just talked about goes to 1,038. The M2S customers staying at will continue to stay between at their current pricing, and multi-annual subscription will stay at their pricing. So that's your second option: renew as is, and go another year. And then, of course, your third option, which is probably not what Autodesk wants me to tell you, but of course, you don't have to renew at all at any time you want. And if you are a network maintenance customer and are perpetual, your license will not time out. You can continue using that network license until your OS no longer supports whatever version you're at, or whatever. It's a perpetual license, so you can use the latest version as long as you want, but you do lose all of your back version availability, any global rights that you may or may not have, and any support, of course, but your licenses won't time out. The back version support is probably the big one that gets a lot of people, because most people that if you have are in the middle of a production are probably not on the very latest version, and so that becomes very important. But you don't have to renew. If you have M2S, maintenance to subscription, if you've already converted to subscription or you have a regular subscription, those are all term-based licenses, and your license will time out. Of course, you can always buy a new subscription later on. Maybe you're not using it right now, and in 6 months you'll need it. You certainly not renew and go ahead and buy one later. It's a 5% difference on a new seat versus a subscription renewal. So it's not a huge difference, but it's still money. But for M2S customers, it becomes a lot bigger. It is a lot bigger difference in price. You've got 2 to 3 times higher pricing than what you're paying on that promotional price. So there's probably not a lot of M2S customers who are going to not renew, considering the price point, unless it's an overall business decision, for whatever reason that you're no longer going to be using the licenses. So, from 865 on a Maya going up to 1600 or even higher, it becomes a much bigger decision to not renew. Okay. All right, and then we have some multi-user trade-ins that are in this strange window between June 24th and August 6th. And I say June 24th because you have a 30-day window after your expiry date in order to renew. A lot of people don't realize that, but we have up to 30 days. Autodesk, it was less, but with the pandemic situation and all of that, Autodesk increased a lot of this to 30 days. And it's been on and off 30 days over the years. Anyways, so if you had something that expired on June 24th, we could renew it tomorrow, but that would be the last day we could renew it. And for these people, you have a couple options. You basically are renew as is, and then next year, because next year you'll fall within the window of getting that 2-for-1 option. Next year you'll get the 2-for-1 option. If you're perpetual, you can convert to your subscription now or wait until next year. Frankly, there's not a lot of difference in pricing on that, because if you convert next year, your pricing is supposed to be similar to what it would have been this year. Now, if you could see me on web camera, I would be doing quotations similar. I don't know what similar is, but right now it's $865. So next year, if you decided to convert, you would not get the 20% increase, and you would be closer to the 865 number next year. So there's not a lot of incentive, honestly, if you're perpetual, to convert to subscription if you're within this window. If you do want to do the 2-for-1 named user early, you could. So if you had a subscription, we have a customer whose subscription expires on August 2nd, and this got brought up a couple days ago, but they want to do the 2-for-1 now, even though their expiry date is not between August 7th of either year. Well, we can do that. That's one little weird loophole here. We just have to wait and late renew this. We'll have to wait until after August 7th, and then we renew the one from August 2nd, and we can go ahead and do the 2-for-1. Hope that made sense. All of this is a little bit confusing, and more than happy to answer questions at the end of this, or take a break or something, or if Brad wants to interrupt me, certainly can. But we can do these up to 30 days late, so some of these will just have to wait till after August 7th. There are a few customers so far that have really wanted to do the 2-for-1. We just have to wait to process the order. All right, these are some kind of pain points and probably some questions people have. Back version support. If you do the trade-in, because you're now going to a new subscription contract, that contract doesn't have a history of back versions, beyond the 3 that you get for sure as part of your subscription. So if you're on Maya 2020, you already get 2017, 18, 19, and 20. If you're on 21 of 3ds Max, you have Max 18, 19, 20, and 21. But there are people that are using Maya 2016 or 3ds Max 2017. And when you go to the subscription, you're not going to have access to that. That being said, we've been able to get exceptions on a case-by-case basis so far in this situation for people using even older versions, because they can do a temp thing on the network licensing. But I can't say that that will be forever and continuing. I have yet to see Autodesk say no, but I'm getting the idea that as we go further down, they're going to get a little bit, they're going to tighten the clamps on that a little bit, and maybe not give that out as easily, although I could be wrong. But technically, you lose your 4+ versions back that you may have had on your multi-user. But again, case by case, hopefully it'll be some wiggle room there. The internet connection is another big question. Yes, you do have to be on the internet to be on named user. It works just like most other software as a service, except remember, you are still installing the product locally. So it's more like an Adobe product in that case. You're still installing it locally. You do have to have access to the internet at least once every 30 days, because the software goes out and makes sure your subscription hasn't expired once every 30 days. Other than that, you do not need to be on the internet. If you're jumping around between a lot of machines, it might detect IP changes, much like any other software you may have, and it may say, hey, you need to relog in now to do that. That would be the worst case scenario. But there are a few clients that might have computers or requirements that they cannot be on the internet at all. We have some government customers with classified machines, some studio facilities that, they are not allowed to have access to the internet. And there is an exception process Autodesk has in place for this specific reason. Actually, right before the presentation, our rep just emailed me with a bunch of forms and, hey, we need to start getting on a bunch of these, and give me a list of companies that we need to go through and start getting exceptions. Some of this won't really matter because we can renew as is for another year, but we want to kind of get the ball in motion, so to speak, now, so we don't have problems down the road. But there is an exception. It's case by case. It goes through several levels of approvals. And I'll be frank with you, it's not going to be available to everybody. So, uh, it will be, they're going to look at it, and if it's a legitimate case, there will be an exception made, and they will continue to do multi-user licenses. But much like I mentioned in the other slides, you can have multi-user licenses right now, pretty much through 2022, if you kept renewing it, as long as you could. So it's not like right now today that where it's imperative, but we do want to get this in place. And then finding a Linux support. This is really a Maya issue for some clients. For those of you for those of you who don't know, Maya is supported on Linux, but only multi-user. You cannot run single-user Maya on Linux. We are supposed to have more information on that in the next few days. I've got a lot of lines out there trying to track this down. I hope they will continue to support Linux, and but I don't have an answer for you right now. So if it's important, please give us your information, and I will keep you abreast as best I can of where that's at, so you can make a decision of whether or not you can trade it in. I mean, I have a feeling a lot of people on Linux are going to want to keep their multi-user as long as possible. So that's just something that we don't know. All right, moving on to perpetual maintenance plans. The last day to renew those is May 6th, 2021. So if you have something that expires on May 6th, 2021, you can renew it one more year, and your last day on that perpetual maintenance would be May 6th, 2022. It is your last chance to switch to subscription, and this is going back to, if you do switch, you'll get the pricing that is prior to the 20% increase. And again, it's based on your renewal eligibility date, your expiry date. So, you can't renew early in order to try to get around the system, so to speak. But this is an example of the cost. So your current cost is $865 for 3ds Max or Maya. And if you were to renew as perpetual, it's $1,038. But if next year you decide, hey, or you decide I want to renew it and go back to subscription, or I want to go to subscription, it would be more or less $865. Again, similar pricing. We don't know the actual price yet, but this is your last chance. So you've got perpetual still for a little bit. It's not ending tomorrow, but you do have some decisions to make. So here's some scenarios for trading in your maintenance. If your maintenance expires July 30th, you can renew it again and take advantage of the 2-for-1 on July 30th, 2021. Or we can wait till after August 7th, as mentioned before, and do the 2-for-1 now if you prefer. Your option 2 is if you're M2S or subscription, you would renew as is, same thing, and then next renewal date, you can take advantage of the 2-for-1 offer, or we can wait and do a late renewal and do it in August and do the 2-for-1 now. If you have a renewal that's coming up during that August 7th through August 7th, 2021, let's say it's on August 30th, you'll have an option of doing 2-for-1 named user. If you don't do it now, that's your only chance for that. The other option is stay with your network license 1 more year and then trade it in at 1-for-1 seat as on in August of 2021. Now, since we're almost at August, this may not be as may not affect as many customers, but you can renew early. So if you have a renewal date that's August 30, and you say, Brian, I want to do my renewal right now. I can't do 2-for-1 right now. And if I do the renewal right now, you don't have the 2-for-1 option the following year. So we need to wait until after August 7th to process that order. So, I don't think that's really a big deal for most people, but just to know that if you're a larger entity and you've got to do POs, and the PO is just going to sit open for a little bit until August 7th until we can process that, if you want to do the 2-for-1 trade-in. All right, this is a little trade-in estimator that's available. It's an Autodesk sales tool they give us. I'm just going to let you have the link. I don't know. Autodesk is probably watching saying, don't do that. I don't know. But it is used during one-on-one customer conversations, and it basically allows you to put in your products. I think you can have a limit of 7 products, and then it asks you some questions, and it comes up with a little cost comparison between what you're currently at and what your new product plan and price would be. So there's the link. I think Brad is going to chat that out to everybody so you can grab it. And then there's a little 5-minute demo. I will say the demo is kind of geared towards, showing me how to walk through this with you. But, you can take a look at it and get an idea. I went through it, and it's, it's pretty interesting, I guess. At least it gives you a ballpark. When you're dealing with Brad or myself or Fernando, then of course we're going to customize all of this to your needs. And I know some of you have specialized pricing and all of this, but this tool is all MSRP and, probably slightly biased, but I think it's still a good starting point. And if you want to do it over the phone with us, we have no problem doing that. Here's a close-up of that screen. Okay, premium subscription plans. This is recently announced. Currently, it is limited to companies with 50 or more subscriptions. There's some reasons for that, just the amount of assets and personnel that Autodesk needs to be able to support this is going to limit right now the customer base that they're going to offer this to. But it will eventually roll out, hopefully, to more companies with less subscriptions. But it is pretty interesting, and it's a nice little plan. It is $300 additional. It is a separate contract than your other contracts, so it can have different renewal dates and all of that. But here is a not a cost comparison, a comparison between the two subscription plans. Your current standard subscription has 2-factor authentication. I think anybody who has a subscription knows that and knows what that is. The premium does a single sign-on, so an additional security makes it a lot easier for login management for larger companies and so forth. The support, a lot of people don't realize there is support that comes with subscription, but there is. Live support is 8.5 versus 24/7. That is live support could be remote desktop support, chat support, phone support. All of that is available to your subscription on your subscription benefits. It just expanded in the premium. And then the product usage reporting. This is the 2 big ones really are single sign-on and the product usage reporting. With your standard subscription, as mentioned in the earlier slides, you can get information about how much a product is used. So if you have a bunch of BIM 360, how much is that being used? Or if you have a bunch of architectural engineering construction collections, then what tools are using a lot of AutoCAD out of that? Revit, what's being used the most and all of that. Within media and entertainment collection, is Maya being used more? Is, Max being used more, and you can start making decisions on that. But in the premium plan, it goes further than that. You can actually get into individual usage by user. So you can say, John Doe uses this product and this product, and what does he do with the product, and how long is he on the product, and all this kind of thing. So you can really start tweaking uh, your pipeline, your purchases, and so forth based on a little bit more information. That is a really important thing for a lot of our customers. Some of our customers have built up their own system to try to do this reporting, but now you're going to be able to have this right within your plan. And it's $300, so I think it's pretty reasonable per, granted you have to do 50 of them, so it adds up, but the single sign-on might be worth it for a lot of people, just that alone. Okay. All right, promo time. It's promo time. At the end of every quarter, there's often promos. Right now, there's an AutoCAD 10 and 20% off, 1 and 3 year term. There is AutoCAD LT and Revit LTs. It's not available through Motion Media. It's really an Autodesk Direct thing only, but I did put it on here for anybody who does want to get an extra AutoCAD LT or Revit LT. It's 20% off, so now's the time to do it. The 3 year is an ongoing pricing thing. That's really not a promotion per se, but just so you know, if you commit to 3 year terms, there's an extra 10% off versus an annual term on almost all products, and that is available through us. And then this one right here, the legacy one, that's really the one that I wanted to make sure and mention, because a lot of you guys have old versions that you're probably not aware that you even have anymore, especially if the person that was managing the products 10 years ago is no longer there, and you've had turnover, which 10 years, I'm sure there's always turnover. That person doesn't even realize, hey, there's a 3D Studio Max 2004 or version 4. I don't think they had a 4, but a Maya 2008, an old AutoCAD that's lying around that under somebody else's name in the company or whatever, and it's been lost. You can use that to get 25% off a new subscription, and that's off most individual products, whether it's Maya, Revit, AutoCAD, 3ds Max, or any of the collections. So you add that and you get a 3 year term, you get an extra 10% off. So anybody who thinks they might have something like that, please contact us. More than happy to look it up for you. If you're an existing client of ours, then it's a little easier to look it up for you, of course. But if you're not an existing client, we can still look it up for you. It might take about 24 hours, though, to get that turned around, because we need to work with Autodesk a little bit to do an asset, kind of a look at all of your assets and be able to get that report to us. But we can certainly help you with that. And, who doesn't like 25% off? All right. So there is one other thing at the end of this I did want to bring up. This got announced yesterday. The landing page went live, and so I threw this on the end slide. It's the Vision Series. It's a 3-day event. It's I believe it's free, and it's by Autodesk. And here's the link: Make Anything. It's got 4 different tracks: design, visualization, cloud and collaboration, film, TV, games. And I clicked a little bit on it. It's just, right now it's kind of a landing page. There isn't a lot of information on it, but I did want to show it here because it's 3 days of virtual presentations and panels and stuff. And I think that a lot of you would benefit from it. I know I'm going to watch it. I'm going to be a part of it as much as possible. But Brad, maybe you can chat that link out to everybody so they can go sign up. Everything virtual these days, right? All right. And I think we're nearing the end. I think my next slide is just questions. And so, Brad, do we have any?
There's none unanswered right now. I've been answering them as we go. But one thing, I chatted the ROI link a little while ago, but it's actually not working. So we'll have to figure out why, if that's just a temporary issue, because it was working yesterday. So
okay,
we can send it to everybody once it's fixed. But
okay. Is there any questions out there that were common that that would benefit everybody else to know them? Or you already did that in the chat and I'm just not seeing it.
I mean, I answered them in the questions thing. Let's see. Most of them you answered already during that.
Well, there's a lot of dates in this and that. So, I mean, I know it's very confusing. Brad and I and Fernando, every day we have some conversation about, now what was the policy on this and what was the policy on that? And we have to go back through it every time. So, we can totally understand how it can be very confusing. Everything was May, then the pandemic happened, and Autodesk, helped out by making everything August. So it's a little confusing, but hopefully you can always go back to this. We will have it recorded. I know you want to hear my voice over and over as much as possible, but you can go back and look at the slides at least and go, oh yeah, this was the date and this was that. So if you have an AEC collection, I don't have, these prices are all based on Maya, but the concepts are all the same.
There is a question about using a team email for a small group of users that rarely use the product.
Yeah. I don't know if I should give the politically correct answer to that or not, because obviously it's based on a user. There's probably something in the licensing that says this needs to be a user, but realistically, if you have John Doe 001 at companyabc.com, that person's going to be able to log in. If you have a user and a password, then it's going to be able to log in. Will two people be able to log in at the same time? No. So if that person's going to log in, the other person's going to log out, go on another machine, log in again, I can't see really what's going to prevent that. It's probably outside some kind of deep EULA agreement somewhere, but yeah, I don't know. I'm sure there are a lot of companies doing something similar to that already. I'll leave it at that. I'm not, And you can reassign the license too. So, it's kind of a hassle, but anything else?
There is one that just came in. How do these changes impact educational licensing?
There's not going to be, I don't know. I think, are educational licenses floating right now? I think they are.
I'm not 100% sure.
Right now, I thought educational licenses are free. So
Yeah, they are.
I'm not sure how it impacts it. If there's floating licenses, I imagine that for a school situation that it will continue to be floating, much like some of the exception processes, because or they'll just, they're free. So I guess they'll give all of the students, they'll have their own user login, right?
Yeah. Another question. If I go off maintenance, will I continue to be able to use multiple versions of current perpetual licenses?
No.
Yeah, once you go off your maintenance, you're stuck on the latest version that you have installed. Basically, you no longer have rights to use previous versions.
Well, what happens is let's say your 3ds Max 2021 is the latest version, you're on maintenance, but you've only installed and been using 3ds Max 2019. You can continue using 2019 if you've never installed or activated 20 or 21. And then when you're ready to go to 2021, you can certainly do that. You have access to the latest one that you've activated, or the latest version out. So, but you won't be able to, I will say you're outside of the license compliance to do that. There's no way, obviously nobody's knocking on your door going, you have to uninstall everything, but you're supposed to, if you want to be under license compliance and not get a letter from Autodesk, which does happen. We had somebody get a nice little license compliance letter yesterday. So.
Someone's asking, how about using multiple versions with subscription?
Yes, you can use multiple versions if you're on maintenance or subscription. 3 versions back. So if you're on 3ds Max 2021 or AEC 2021, you have access to 20, 19, and 18. For sure, right in your account, you can download them, install them, use them, log in, back and forth, whatever you want to do. And on your network license that you can still get, all of those will be on your network license, so just by default. Anything else? Did that answer it?
I believe so. It did for me. It doesn't look like there's anything else.
All right. Well, this is our email. I mean, you have our email. This is customers at Motion Media. We'll go to quite a few different people at Motion Media. If you need to ask something and you're not really sure who it goes to, just send it to customers at Motion Media. There's our phone number. I'm at extension 202. Brad's at extension 204. Fernando is 210. And then Tim or Gina, there's quite a few, but you can certainly dial us directly. I am Brian at Motion Media with an I, B-R-I-A-N at Motion Media. Brad is B-R-A-D, Brad at Motion Media. You can email us directly. It's really not a problem.
Hang on. There's more questions coming in.
Okay.
If you have a perpetual license that you bought a few years ago, then you have access only the recent downloaded version, not the date of purchase version.
If you have perpetual, you have access, or you should have, and if you don't have access, we can get you access to the latest version that you had maintenance on. If you never had maintenance, because you weren't required to buy maintenance when you bought perpetual, that was, at the time, that was not a requirement or anything. So if you didn't buy maintenance, then you have that version and that version only. But if you had maintenance on top of it, whenever that maintenance expired, whatever date that is, whatever version was out at that date, that's the version you can get. And if for some reason it's not on your account, let us know. I mean, we can put a case in, they'll make sure it's on your account. That's what you should have.
Yeah. Another one, I currently have a multi-user network license. Can I trade that in for $435 subscription or 250 indie license, right? I'm not sure, and maybe you know this, about the indie licenses and being able to trade anything in for an indie.
No, the indie license is separate. You can, the indie licenses are available. They're available through the Autodesk eStore only, and they're a separate thing. So yeah, you can trade in your multi-user for one or two at the price, at that 432 price, if it's Maya, for example. So that's just a choice. Yeah, if you're an individual person and you want to get the indie license, then you can definitely do that. They're functionally the same. But I would question why you have a multi-user license, I guess. I mean,
you wouldn't have to trade anything in at that point. You just let your maintenance lapse essentially and get an indie.
Yeah. You don't have to trade it in, right? You would just let it lapse and get the indie license if that's what you wanted to do.
Yeah. And will collections still be available? The answer is yes.
Yes, and actually, this is a very good point that I should have brought up in the slides, now that you mentioned that. For people that have multi-user and want to do the trade, this, whether even on M2S, this is your option to change your product. You can actually change the product. You can go from collections to a Maya. You can go Maya up to a collection. You can go, I believe you can go from one product to a completely different product if you want, and just whatever the pricing is for that product. People that were on M2S originally, a lot of people went to the point product. So if they had Maya, they just went to Maya. They didn't go to the collection. But then collections got Arnold added, 5-pack of Arnold, and we got more people going, hey, I made that switch to Maya. Can I switch that to a collection after all? Because it was only a couple $100 more. And you couldn't. But now, if you have multi-user and you go to named user, you do have that option again to change up your product of whatever you're at. So you are not, so you can change at this point when you switch it in. You don't have to switch it in for a like product. Sorry, I should have brought that up earlier. I forgot about that because that's really important.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that either.
Yeah.
Looks like that is all for now. Obviously, if anybody else has questions, you can email them to us or call us, and we can talk more about your specific situation.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody.